times. It's been a long time since I've gone live. Draft is on Thursday. I got a really cool night planned. I won't be going live. I'll be going out with some friends to watch the draft out at a pub or something like that. But anyways, I just want to tune in with you guys and talk about some options that we have in this draft. Players that you like, players that I like. The obvious questions, at five, what falls to us, whether that's an Anthony Richardson, a Jalen Carter, a Will Anderson Jr. What are we going to do at five is one thing, but that's just the tip of the iceberg on this draft. With so much capital, I do think that the Seahawks will stay at five and select a player. But when we get down to the 20 pick, that is an option to trade out personally. I think that is a possibility that they trade out of 20, but I do believe that they will stay at five. Let's get into it. Let's talk about who you think that they may select at five, who I think they may select at five. At five, I have three players that I think are really, really high on the Seahawks board, and just everybody's board in general that are possibilities, and another player that may have entered that conversation at five, depending on what the Cardinals do at three. Now, if I am a betting man, I think my instinct is that the safest player for the Seattle Seahawks in this draft would be Will Anderson Jr. I think that's the safest player, the player that fits the Seahawks culture the most. You get a marquee kind of career defensive end edge that can do everything. Better in run defense, I find, than in pass defense, but that's okay. He can just do so much, and he's just so adept to the game and learning that I think that would be somebody that if he does fall to the Seahawks, that they would likely select. Then let's discuss Jalen Carter. Now, Jalen Carter, quote unquote character concerns, this, that, and the other, and maybe a lot of overblown concerns about his ability to stay on the field in terms of endurance and things like that and stamina. Nonetheless, I do think that Jalen Carter is another really good selection for the Seahawks if he has passed that test when it comes to their interview with him and being dedicated to the game of football. Now, the elephant in the room and the player with the most stigma around him would be Anthony Richardson. Getting Anthony Richardson allows the Seattle Seahawks to have a quarterback that they can slot in a year or two and be in a position to grow with the team. Very young player, great character. He's got all the talent in the world, but needs to get through a lot of learning in terms of progressions. But I do think that Richardson is underrated in terms of his ability to perhaps see the game of football, reflect the sun, what's good. You're probably the only person in here. But that's okay. I'm just going to break it down here and talk about the players I like in the draft, players you guys like in the draft. So those are the three picks I think that the Seattle Seahawks would select at five. That would be Anderson Jr., Jalen Carter, or Anthony Richardson if he falls. Some outlier players there would be C.J. Stroud and Will Levis if they like them enough and they think that they need contingency at quarterback after this Smith contract. Go Hawks all day long. You tell me your thoughts. At the fifth overall selection, will the Seattle Seahawks take one of those three players? I do believe that they do. The upside is too good on all of those players. They are all pretty much young players, and I think that those guys do fit the mold for the Seahawks. And as Snyder and Carroll said, hey, what's going on, Cameron? It's been a while. Cameron Ashcroft in the building. And he's on the A-Rich team. I've been on that A-Rich team maybe 2 weeks ago or so. I didn't think Richardson was possible to fall, so I was mocking Levis quite a bit. You know what? It's up in the air. None of us really know what's going to go on. I think the most upside pick for the Seattle Seahawks, the highest upside, the best possible situation to look forward to the future would be Anthony Richardson personally. I believe that he can come in and work and learn under Geno Smith and be in this culture, and he fits the culture in terms of his fun, his ability to just gel with teammates and learn the game. I think he is the best pick for Seattle personally. A lot of people will disagree, but I don't think those people are looking deep enough into this defensive lineman draft class after Jalen Carter or after Will Anderson to see the upside of going with Anthony Richardson at 5. I've done hundreds of mocks. We can get a lot of really good defensive linemen going even offense in the first two selections of this draft and still have Anthony Richardson in our back pocket. And that's what I hope they're able to do personally. I know a lot of Seahawks YouTubers and NFL YouTubers disagree with that. They say attack the D line immediately, take Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, or death. And I think that that's a little bit overblown. I love those two players in terms of how they fit Seattle. So it's a tough call for me to say that. But Anthony Richardson, a lot of first round QBs bust out, but he is different. You're looking at a guy that is not dependent on one aspect of his game. Most of those types of quarterbacks that are just mobile quarterbacks do not have arm strength. They do not have the ability to go through progressions and stuff like that, but Richardson does. And I just love the kid's character and think that this is not a Trey Lance kind of guy. You know what I mean? This is a guy that has a crazy arm and the ability to throw and move on the run. And pairing him with a Kenneth Walker and a Roshan Johnson and read option and stuff like that, it would be absolutely tough if we can really just keep that tight end room tight, get a third wide receiver. And that's looking to the future, 24, 25, 26. You're looking at a position where this team may be selling and you want superstar talent to make this team marketable. And he's up there. No, there's nothing wrong with Will Anderson. No, there's nothing wrong with Jalen Carter there. But do they have the overall impact on the franchise for the short and long term that a player like Richardson or maybe even Stroud now would have? I'd be happy with those two selections because I just think the Seahawks in general are going to be good for the next few years at least, regardless of what happens with Geno Smith. So we're not going to be picking above number 20, in my opinion, for some time. So let's look at it like this is a chance to stash something and move on. But that's how I feel. Reflective Sen says, I mean, if they have to, then Carter and or Richardson, but I prefer a trade back. Interesting. Trade back to what, though? That's my question there, Reflect the Sun. If you can trade back and still be in the top 10, I think it's possible. But I'm just going to take one of those guys at 5 personally if I'm Snyder. What do you think about drafting Jackson Smith and Jigma? Cameron Ashcroft says, I think at value. I like it at value. I don't know if I could pull the trigger at 20 because I like guys like Marvin Mims just as much as I like that player. I do think Smith and Jigma is really good, though, and Jigma is really good. But I do think that's a bit high. I'd rather slot in somebody else at 20 personally that could maybe fit the defense. There's a lot of guys I like there. But Smith, Jigba is going to be a good player. Reflective Sun says, just can't get past what I've seen with Jack Locker and Sam Darnold. Who are with Locker and Darnold, who have been physical and can run. Levis and Richardson at 55%. Yeah, I think this is a different story than those guys, though. You know what I mean? I respect that opinion for sure. But I do think that this is a little bit of a different tale here with the upside of Richardson. Those guys never had the talent near this guy. Even if they had more like kind of stable college careers. Really hard to improve on the 55% completion. It is an issue. And, I just think that like given the right situation, a player like that is smarter than he's anticipated, like better than maybe he seems. He doesn't have a lot of experience at the position, but we don't need to play him right away is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like we don't need to play him right away. I just feel like it works, and that if you can get that completion percentage up in the offense Seattle runs, specifically, you look at a guy like Jared Goff and how he was able to have success in a Waldron offense. You can't tell me that a guy like Richardson can't have success as well. A lot of that plays into it, right? Look at Geno Smith. Geno Smith himself, he's got talent and everything, but this guy came out 9 years later and was able to slot into a Waldron offense, really worked hard on his game, and was able to get that completion percentage up. And maybe he's a more cognitive QB than Richardson will ever be, but he's not a more talented QB by any means. What's up, Devin? Yeah, so it's been a while here. Other things I want to talk about is the defensive line. So, let's say we don't get Jalen Carter. Let's say we don't, there's guys I like, specifically Mazi Smith. Now, Mazi Smith, is so good at getting low before the snap and just swallowing up defenders. I think Mazzy Smith is almost a must-have for Seattle. I like. No, he doesn't have any pass rush ability. That doesn't say he doesn't have any, but he can develop that. But watching the film on Maze Smith, I'm not sure he doesn't fit the team as good as Jalen Carter. You know, we need true run stopper, and we can get guys to rush at other parts of the field. It's tough for me to just say that like it's Carter or bust. You know, Mazzy Smith, Keanu Benton, Kobe Turner. There's other guys, you know, that I think that you could slot in there that would have immediate effect and be NFL ready on this team. At least Richardson gives you at least running ability. He has potential. Sorry, Reflect the Sun says at least he gives you elite running ability. He has potential to have elite passing ability as well. This is a kid. This guy is like 21 years old, has very limited exposure, and has been throwing against defenses that are very sharky, very crafty. You know what I mean? Once you get better pass protection in front of him, I know he had some good players in Osiris Torrance and that, but really like it takes some time with NFL coaches, no matter I think who these first round QBs are, to develop into 60+% completion percentage guys. And I think there was a lot of drops and stuff like that too at Florida. And I think he's just better than advertised, and that's my opinion, right? Like a lot of people, I think it's valid to say that's a huge gamble there, and there's safer quarterbacks. You know what I mean? But if it's not him, I don't see really who it is other than Will Levis and C.J. Stroud. Maybe C.J. Stroud drops to 5 now. I doubt it. That 18% score or whatever on that test. I watched the tape. You know, he was able to just expose teams and has a really, really nice throwing motion and just kind of gets the ball into perfect slots. So a lot of the combine testing, I'm not wowed purely by Anthony Richardson's combine testing. What I'm wowed by is his character. Yes, his ability to run. I do think his ability to run is sustainable, but his ability to go through progressions is better than advertised. And if he didn't have that, I wouldn't be considering him at that position. So it's not just that he can run, but he has some of the best arm strength in the game. And check this out, man. If you're running bootlegs and stuff like that, and you have good tight ends and you can get to the edge like that, like Richardson, and you're able to understand that you just got to make sound throws. You're not throwing to like B grade Kadarius Toney type players here. Not saying Toney is B grade, but you're throwing to DK Metcalf. You know what I mean? You might be throwing to Dalton Kincaid or Disley or Lockett or Marvin Mims. You know what I mean? With an offensive line that they're going to be able to build that allows for the time for him to make those throws. To me, that's dangerous. Mazzy Smith, yes. Reflect the Sun says yes, please. I think he's very Seahawky. I'm at a point with Mazzy Smith that if I have to get a player like that at 20 because I don't have Carter, I'm okay with taking Mazzy Smith there at 20 over a Kalijah Cansey or something like that, or Trenton Simpson. That's where I am with that. You guys tell me what you think about that. Personally, I'm happy to hear your opinions as well. But yeah, that's just another player that I really like there. Reflect the Sun says, I'd be okay with Stroud, but Geno is good for 4 to 5 years, and I think 70% at 70% a good decision. Build the defense and run game, and we can move past SF easy. I think we can move past SF, adding just a few more quality starters. I think I'm at that point. You got to remember, we were up at half on that team, dominating in a lot of aspects of that game. We were up at half. Geno Smith, 4 to 5 years, I think that's generous at the level of play he is playing at. It's possible. But you got to play the upside in the NFL, and things change quickly. I'm a fan of Geno Smith, absolutely. I do think that he can be that guy for at least 2 more seasons. I don't know about 4 to 5 seasons. I just like having another quarterback outside a lock in the pocket, in their back pocket to push things, give them a lot of options. And a lot of teams tell me, let's go to the San Francisco thing here too, even if you get by San Francisco. And I think you can do that by adding another dominant outside corner, some more interior D-line, some interior offensive line, Roshan Johnson, some contingency at running back there. As long as we have depth, we can compete with that team this year because the Niners have lost players. I don't care what anyone says. Jimmy Ward going means that the Niners lose some heart there. Al Shazier, there's some things that they have lost there. And as some of their players age, and as we have tackles now to help our situation there, we can compete with them. But we do need to be able to stop the run, right? So that's definitely key. We need to find those positions. It's not just one guy that's going to do it. You know what I mean? We need to find players that match up well against McCaffrey and Samuel and can keep and contain those types of players at least for 50% of the game, so we can get things going that way. Mazzy Smith, Reflect the Sun says, Mazzy Smith, Jack Campbell at LB, Dick Buckus Award winner, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, and beats our beloved KJ White in combine numbers. Bobby could train him. I like that. So let's talk about Jack Campbell. Probably underrated to me. They don't like his speed, but he seems like that type of guy that would just be in the right place at the right time. I'm all for that. So, we do need to add a linebacker here at some point in time in this draft. But there's guys I like deeper too. Yasir Abdullah. But if we're talking about middles, Drew Sanders, Jack Campbell. Who else, man? Linebacker, Reflect the Sun. There's a few. There's some sleepers, Demarion Overshown. But if we're looking at true middle guys, I think you got to go with more of those blue chip kind of middle guys, inside linebacker guys, like you said. Whoever they bring in, Bobby Wagner is going to be huge for them. And don't sleep on Devin Bush, y'all. Like, I know he's underplayed there, but it's a different system in Pittsburgh. And, just don't sleep on him. Like, he's got ability. I don't think it is a pure inside linebacker, but I think he's going to play better than people think. Devin Bush, I do think he's going to play better than people think. What's up, Seahawks? Eddie, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Hard after only a partial performance to bank on Geno for 4 to 5 years. That's why we were considering a QB. And I just, outside of that, soon, I just think that, like, you don't get a chance to do this often. Not a lot of first-round quarterbacks pan out. I understand that. But this is a bit different. This QB class in that top 5 looks really good. You know what I mean? Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, that those guys look pretty good to me, right? You know what I mean? Maybe they're not as blue chip as Trevor Lawrence, etc., but they do look solid. Right. So Heady, great hand. Some of his interceptions were amazing. Yeah, exactly. Like, just you got to sometimes overlook the numbers and just the combine numbers and just look at the player. The combine is just one part of the evaluation for our teams. Character. How do they play in games? How do they play in big moments? You know what I mean? Pardon me. So those are all things that the Seahawks are looking for to make immediate impacts. But we need speed to the edge, as you saw in the second quarter of the second half of the Niners game there. As our team got tired, we were not able to get to the edge, and then you had McCaffrey getting to the edge and Samuel getting to the edge. That was the freaking problem. That was the issue. Getting to the edge, getting outside the hashes, so you could stop those running backs from breaking big gains. Cody Barton was trailing those guys at all times. You know what I mean? And those types of players are not going to cut it against those types of athletes, period. We need to fix that. And I don't know who those players are going to be, but that's what we're looking at right here. And we're going to talk about those. And I want your suggestions. Simpson, to me, is not the guy. Just he's a little bit too small, could get washed out. I'd rather have a Campbell, but maybe even somebody a little bit quicker than that. So this draft to me is not exceptional for that. I'm looking at Drew Sanders as a guy who might be able to have that ability to sniff things out. Even like KJ wasn't the fastest guy, he would sniff those things out. He'd push that outside kind of sweep stuff and push things inside so you could at least make the tackle. You could at least stop that from being a touchdown. Yes, good part to Reflect the Sun. The modern TEs are getting faster, but I'm looking at a lot of different kind of options and sets there of specialty type of guys, Buffalo players, Jamal Adams type players that can get to the tight ends and make sure that they get there. There's a lot of kind of combo RB safe or safety linebackers too that they could consider as well. JL Skinner, who are all some of these guys too, right? Like there's a lot of really random guys overshown, that they're going to look at. And Seattle will be taking the best possible talent at position. Last year worked, period, comma, it worked. And Snyder will say, we needed this guy. That's why it worked out, Cross. But they decided to take the best potential players at the positions of need and then not reach. But with this much capital, I think we're understating how dynamic this draft could actually be because you can trade 20. You could come out of the pardon me. You could come out of this draft with 12 or 14 players if you wanted to. Or you could stay put and try to do what we did last year mostly and just look at those positions of need and double down on each of them and try to get make sure one of two guys kind of pans out, especially at that D-line position. I really like what's available from 83 to 190 in the D-line area. There's a lot. I've done a lot of research there because I am anticipating if they don't take Carter, we're going to have to really stack things up there. Zach Pickens, Kobe Turner, Moro Ajomo. There's so many more guys. Byron Young. We talked about Mazzie Smith. There's a lot of guys that I think can fill the void and have enough beef to at least play at a Jared Reed level. You know what I mean? Maybe beyond that level to at least stop the run, at least be better than a Monet. Maybe not as vet as Al Woods, but younger, faster than Al Woods, be able to clog lanes, clean things up so our safeties and our linebackers, our edge players, can collapse things and limit some of these gains and issues that we're having in the run. Should we drop down to 10? Dropping down from 20 soon is something I really like. But if a really crazy athlete, a player that we just can't pass up is there at 20, I'm eyeing Bijan Robinson, that kind of player. I know it seems redundant. I'm probably going to stab. I'm crazy enough to even take a Michael Mayer at 20. You know what I mean? Just something that but I'm probably going to trade out if it comes down to it. And I can't get a blue chip prospect. And I don't know about two thirds, but maybe I do it for another second and maybe a third and a fourth and something next year. I'd want more than just 2/3 though. They take 2 LBs. It is likely, but what I'm saying, reflect the sun on that 2 LB question is it might not be the pure Jack Campbell type LB or Drew Sanders. It might be a convert kind of hybrid guy, Cam Jones, Indiana, Yasir Abdullah. Go look at these guys. More modern LBs that might seem a little smaller, but they can hit hard. And like you said, cover downfield if they have to stretch out and go and chase freaking George Kittle down the field or chase Tyler Higbee or find somebody in the slot. They can not only stop them, but they can pop them and instill fear. I want that player. I want a player like Cam Chancellor was that can Ryan Neal was a good hitter, but somebody that could really level somebody, pop the ball out, scare people, roam around, and smack shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, it is very likely that they do take a couple LB level types that Bobby can teach. Bush couldn't stop the run with the Steelers either. He was really good when they just had him running rangy roaming. Sniffing out screens, going into the flat. When they tried to make him into a pure inside gapping linebacker, Devin Bush, it doesn't really work. He's too small for that. So I do think he has value, but I think he needs to be in the right system. Michael Crowhorse Chavez, how you doing? Hawks Times, good eve, sir. And everyone jump on here real quick. Hey, thank you. Reflect the sun. I mean, Gino has figured it out. He did it all in practice. Diggs says it's TO Thursday, and Gino is shredding us. Yeah. You know what? I'm not Geno Smith has impressed me so much that it's not out of the question of me to this point that they could be in an NFC championship game with Geno Smith. It's not out of the question. I'm not saying draft one of these QBs to push Geno Smith out this year. I'm not at all saying that. It could take a guy a lot of time to get to where Geno Smith is. I am saying if you feel that one of those guys has the potential to take the reins and can compete with Drew Lock, and you are also freeing up draft capital for the future by already having an Anthony Richardson there for when Geno Smith is up. That opens up doors for the future as well, because then your future potential picks do not have to be at that position because you have that in the bag. And if you are telling me that you do not need three good quarterbacks or serviceable quarterbacks in the modern NFL, with the way these D linemen are smacking people, with the way players are getting injured, with how high tempo the game is, go and ask the San Francisco 49ers fans if they wish they had three good serviceable quarterbacks ready to go. Because they'll tell you if they had somebody better than, than that they had in that game just to be available to play, that they might even be in a Super Bowl now. So things are changing. You need lots and lots and lots of talent all over the place now at depth, because the game is so high tempo and people are just getting smashed. I love your points though, Reflect the Sun. They're all valid and very, very, they got a lot of basis to them. So respect for that. They don't want, Michael Crower says they don't need a mass draft 2023 on QB, and Locke probably be gone or use his trade. I mean, there's so many options. That's the beauty of this whole conversation, is there's so many options having such a great draft in 2021-22 that I don't think people realize how quickly the window has opened for our Seattle Seahawks again. Look, I'm not a younger guy. Like, I'm younger to some, but I've been watching the Seahawks since basically the late 80s. As a cognitive mind in the early 90s, and I've seen a lot of cycles of this team. I have not seen the team better set up than I have now from a draft the year before. The last year's draft was so powerful that we have the ability to just take not only what we feel, but take players that we think could work not only just next year, but in year 2 and 3. So don't be surprised if they take some selections that you're like, we don't need that maybe just right now. But how do they pair with other draft picks that we'll be picking in 24? How do they pair with coaching and philosophies in the future? It's very deep, guys. It's a year-to-year league, but the planning to bring it together can take decades. And it took a while for our drafts to pan out in the previous to create what the LOB era was, LOB Wilson era was. It took the Eagles a long time to build both sides of those trenches to be what they are. It took Patrick Mahomes and Andy Dalton, or Andy Reid. Of course, Mahomes is the focal point, but they had to go out and get your Clarks, your Joneses. It takes time. And I think the Seahawks have turned it around very, very, very quickly. Last three QBs who won the SB were aged cheaper UFDA, so we don't need to sign a rookie QB if they are showing elite and no-brainer. Are quarterbacks, or do you mean like the last two? Like, what are we talking about there? Because I see Mahomes. You know what I mean? I see Mahomes. And I just, regardless of who won, I see Mahomes. I see Lawrence. I see Burrow. I see Ertz. Hurts. I don't see those guys as late round guys. Just explain that. Chad Brown, maybe Urlacher, Chad Brown. Speed was an issue with KJ coming out of the draft, and Jack is even faster. Yeah, I'm high on Jack Campbell. Excuse me, I'll be right back. I'm just getting over a cold here. Pardon me. Yeah, so Jack Campbell. I'm for it at position. If you love Jack Campbell, I'm cool with that. It just has to be at the right value. KJ Wright's ability to read plays, put him in a position before they even really happen most of the time, to even need to use speed. So if he's smart enough, if you're a smart enough player, you can, I have Jack Campbell over the ability of a Van Der Esch, who's a slow guy too. So yeah, that guy's good for sure. Michael Crowhorse Chavez, yes, absolutely. To the edge was paralyzing Cody. Yeah, exactly. So we can't afford that. Stetson Bennett or Jaron Hall or Hayner. I'd say DTR. Stetson Bennett, I like if you're going with a pure backup. I don't think that either of those guys. Maybe Jaron Hall could be a better player than Drew Lock, but I still like Drew Lock. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even bother with that. Maybe I would just go like, super late. Yeah, maybe Hayner, Connell, Connell, or DTR. I know Brandon Nelson likes DTR. I like DTR too. DTR has lots of production. You know what I mean? Why not? Why not take him in the later rounds if you're not going to stab early? Um, so you said the last two of three QBs who have won the Super Bowl were age cheaper UFDAs, so we don't need to sign a rookie QB if they aren't showing elite and a no-brainer. I mean, that's a valid point, right? Like, I don't think any QB anymore is really a no-brainer. I mean, Trevor Lawrence to me even had concerns he's developing. I think Burrow was the biggest no-brainer to me, just like he just showed that elite poise right out of the gate. But it's really hard for me to consider any young quarterback as a no brainer. Because after those like super blue chippy guys, it seems like if you have the right dominant running offense, you can slot in a Brock Purdy and still kind of move the ball down the field. So if that's your point, sure. If you're all for going defense early and dominating on defense out of the gate, making this defense just so intense that nobody can do anything to it, that's okay. But let's dominate at both sides of the football, because that's what it takes now. Like, there are teams that are going to expose your weaknesses regardless of how dominant you are. Yes, even if you're the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, even if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going to be exposed in some point of the game. So, you need to have players and work to your strengths at what your development is. And we're great at developing secondary players. I think we need a corner more than other guys think, but I'm not taking that cornerback. Let's talk about that super early. I like Kobe, but I kind of like Kobe in the slot. People are like, whatever, Kobe's mediocre in the slot. He wasn't a slot cornerback. He did amazing. Are you fucking kidding me? Kobe Bryant was mediocre in the slot. He was good. This guy had freaking tied the NFL lead in ball punch outs, like turnovers for, he's only going to get better. Like, maybe you feel like, oh, you want somebody, you have Jordan Love to be interchangeable there. Maybe he shadows more the bigger guys if they come out there. But like, I would like somebody outside that's more dominant than Michael Jackson. We can run with Mike Jackson. I like Mike Jackson. But if you bring in a Corey Trice, a Cottrell Clark, you don't have to go as high as Gonzalez or, come on, Eli Ricks, that type of guy. But you can get somebody who's rangy, lanky. Julius Brent, sure. I want somebody that's a little bit more grimy at the line of scrimmage. But let's draft there too, somewhere in the middle rounds. Tell me if I'm crazy. But if we start making it so that if you throw, okay, Tariq Woolen is so good, right? So if you throw at Woolen, you're risking an interception. By year two, Woolen, let's just be real. If you're not like a super crazy QB, coaches are probably going to be like, don't look at Tariq's side. Don't look at 27. That's just the reality of it. They'll try to come underneath him, or they'll try to maybe the occasional double move, but it's probably not going to work out. So if you have a quarterback that's sharky on the simple comeback stuff on the wide receiver 2 element, or just that other side of the field, man, it becomes hard to throw on Seattle. It really does. Tell me what you guys think about that. Should they look at corner? I mean, yeah, if you fall back, out of 5 and you look at a Gonzalez type of thing, like Witherspoon, yes, I like Witherspoon a lot. I think he hits hard. He's really good. He was on a great defense. I like that player a lot. I probably wouldn't take him over a Gonzalez though, just because I'm more watched like the Pac-12 stuff. I just see Gonzalez as the best corner prospect in this draft, personally. Sounds like corner is deep. Absolutely, another physical tall corner would be great. You got it. That's what I mean. I think you know what I'm trying to say, Reflect the Sun, is like somebody who can get up and things, like more like a Travarius Ward type of player that's like, if they're not super dominant, they're feisty, They are good with their hands. They're able to, I could even say get away with some contact at the point of attack. Guard big receivers. You can't just isolate them and expose them, because as hard as Michael Jackson plays, he has his limitations. So he gave up a lot of stuff underneath, and we can't afford that, because they're going to go away from Tariq this year. So that's interesting. Running backs. So many, so many, so many. We brought in some for top 30 visits. There's the obviously elite guys. I know Brandon does a good job of this. Stanton, all those guys do a great job of breaking down so many of these different players. I'm in agreement that Roshan Johnson is a great fit for this team if we're looking for a bruiser. But I also like Eric Gray. Man, there's so many RBs in this one. I mean, if we're going high, you know what I mean. Let's just shoot for those studs. Then it is what it is. But yeah, that's interior. That's interesting there. So center, a huge point of contention here. A lot of people love John Michael Smith. He's good. I like Tippmann better than Smith for our team. But there's other fits too there. Later rounds, you got Scruggs. There's a lot of different fits at center that I think could work, but I do think that Evan Brown will probably beat those guys out as a rookie for center, knowing Carroll. So you can look at guards too, Zavala. You can look at Avila. You can look at Okior Jr. out of Alabama. You could convert one of those center prospects. You could go with Cody Mock. We're really good there. We're going to take a lineman, and I'm excited that we have a lot of good options there. And Evan Brown really did open the door for us to have some good options there at lineman. So that's pretty dope too. This draft is going to be really exciting though, for sure, because Jalen Carter has created such a draft story, and so many people had Seattle automatically mocked Jalen Carter to Seattle before any of the street racing stuff. And then that kind of mock drastically changed. And you got to wonder if Seattle's playing that in their favor, in a sense, because we just don't know exactly how they see the board. I can't wait to see how that pans out. 2 RBs will be drafted, maybe. I was on the board with a chain third early down back. He's really fast and good. I like him. Kendre Miller or a thumper. I go either direction, though. The explosiveness is what I like, too. I could go in either direction. Like, I would love to have the Carson type, the Roshan Johnson, the Keanu Mitchell, the bang bang, like short yardage kind of player. Bang bang bang, because it's never bang bang around here. But I could also see them sleeping on people like Deuce Vaughn, like he's slept on, There's a lot of guys that you can get value out of and find a bruiser in FA or UFDA, right? Because those drafts, those smasher 200-pound guys, they never usually go too high anyway, outside of like your Roshan Johnson projection. So maybe you take the value of an explosive player, like you're saying, a Chain, Tajay Spears, Chase Brown out of Illinois. There's a lot, man. Deuce would be interesting third down. And it's like we're in maybe better position than people think with having DJ Dallas. You know what I mean? Like, DJ Dallas to me gives us 2 running backs. I don't think DJ Dallas is a marquee running back, but he is good. Let's face the facts here. Every time we put DJ Dallas in, other than that gadget kind of play shit, like where he tried to throw and stuff, he's been really good. And against good defenses, he's played well. So my hand is not as forced there as maybe I would think. I would like somebody that's more of the mold of Kenneth Walker in case Kenneth get hurt, heaven forbid, or Chris Carson, like a bruiser guy, but somebody that can catch out of the backfield too is crucial to me. That's where the NFL is going. But Deuce Vaughn, man, he's really good, man. You know what I mean? Miller, good production, TCU, I think. There's some guys there. But, yeah, the running back position, they might take 2. Maybe one earlier. Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, I have a feeling about Jahmyr Gibbs. You know what I mean? Like, he's not Bijan Robinson, but if I felt like I was reaching 5 spots to take Jahmyr Gibbs because I liked his explosiveness and what he was able to do, that Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of like the way the NFL is right now, and I'd be happy with that as somebody to spell K9 because he can come in and he can like close out games and he can stretch teams, Yes, I'm on board with trading down and getting Jahmyr Gibbs at like 4, 3, 6'6", 200 pounds speed. Yeah, he could step right in. Yes, exactly. And I think he has, like you said, Reflected Sun. I think he has that skill set that translates to the NFC West, not just the NFL, right? Like I think he's very like adept to like kind of the side to side offense and kind of zone scheme stuff. And I have Walker as being a top three running back in 23 in the season. I think that Kenneth is going to do those kinds of numbers. But if you got a guy that can come in and kind of be like what Samuel is to McCaffrey, that is going to, not saying that that we have McCaffrey hands in Walker, but I think that will develop this year, that part of his game. We could be really, really dangerous. And yeah, that's exciting as hell, actually. Or, if you don't want to stab that early, because in that position, you got to get your defensive tackle, you've got to get your receiver. There it is, receiver. God, I mean, you guys know me. I'm more of a secondary type of guy, but receiver is a critical need here, regardless of Derek Young's progression. I think they're going to give Derek the ability to try to come in and win minutes. I don't know if they see Derek as a true third down receiver. So we all know that. We all talk about that. Yeah, punts, be a receiver, third. Yeah, exactly. That's multifaceted there for Jahmyr Gibbs. There is some sleeper receivers that are not just slot receivers. So it's like the preconceived notion is you need to be between 5 feet tall and 5'11" to be a slot receiver. That's not it. A lot of teams use bigger guys as their third down options. Maybe they don't have crazy success. Sometimes those are tight ends, but there are guys here. And specifically for me, I know for some other Seahawks YouTubers, I was very early on this Rashee Rice. He is not explosive downfield long speed, but his separation ability in traffic. Okay, it's 3rd and 6. You look at DK. DK gets doubled. The coverage goes over there. Lockett's been pushed off the line, so his route is busted. And they've got a speedy linebacker following Disley or Fant or whichever tight end we draft and we come in here. But then you have Rashee Rice running a little skinny. You know what I mean? And he's one-on-one with a slower linebacker or a smaller safety or even a hard-hitting big safety, but that ball's thrown up. He's going to come down with the ball. That's the type of player that I want to see here, just as much as I want to see a Jackson Smith and Jigma. I want to see somebody who can line up in trips. And DK can come inside as he ages a bit, maybe down the future. And DK can be more that Marcus Colston, a pseudo tight end. And then you can have Rashee Rice playing outside. That's the versatility you get from somebody who's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, quite a bit stronger, but has a big catch radius and the ability to come down with catches in traffic, specifically in crucial down and distance situations and in the red zones where you need another receiving threat, somebody who's going to score as well. Darnell Washington to play 2 roles, receiver and blocker and goal line weapon. Henry Mars, how are you doing? Gibbs caught a lot of ball. Yeah, Gibbs is high on my list for sure. Darnell Washington also high on my list. If Darnell Washington is there at 37, I am pulling the trigger. I am running to the podium for the reasons you said. He's a third lineman. So, what am I talking about? 6th lineman. So he was doing what we had in George Fant, except at an actual dominant tight end. He's a set of hands that you can't really stop from catching the ball if he runs a right aggressive angle. And the sky's the limit for him. But he is the type of freak athlete that I could see Seattle pulling the trigger on, surprisingly, to some people. At that 37th selection, I don't think he lasts that long. In a trade down, maybe he's available in a gap between 20 and 33. But if he is there, I want that player because it opens up the doors for the Fant trade. And look, let me talk about Noah Fant here. I like Noah Fant. If Noah Fant stays, that's cool. It's just about value to trade him, and opening up contract money is why I would trade him. But I think Fant still has room to grow. I think it was underwhelming of a season, but Geno didn't look his way all the time. I saw he was open sometimes more, but he is a good player, so that's okay. But Darnell Washington is different. We'll have to look at Rashee Rice that I haven't seen any tape. Yeah, so he plays for SMU. He didn't have the craziest combine numbers, but he's just good. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just good. I like him. Um, and what do you guys think about Quentin Johnson? You know what I mean? If Quentin Johnson falls, is Quentin Johnson like underrated or overrated? You know, a lot of people would say maybe he's overrated, but I think if he can just find his lane, he could be good as well. Yeah, Darnell at 20, like, man, with how deep the TE class is and needs that other position. But it is weird when you get to that 20 spot when you do mocks, you see players that aren't as exciting as maybe Darnell Robinson. Like, would I take Kalijah Cansey over Darnell Robinson? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't think so. You know what I mean? So that's a good point, right? Like, we'll just see how they value that. But in our offense, the way that we value tight ends as a look, as you saw, we were starting to look at Kobe Parkinson a lot in the flats and stuff in the end of the year, and he was effective. And he was like getting the ball and turning up field and making plays. Darnell Robinson is every bit as talented as that. And yeah, just a freak athlete. So I can see them taking a stab at him. Um, but there's some other guys too. Zach Kuntz, you know, we really like him. Zach Kuntz seems really, really good in terms of his physical abilities. Then you've got Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer. I'm higher on Michael Mayer than some of these people are. Like a lot of people are saying Michael Mayer is like just too slow or whatever, but like me personally, like Michael Mayer looks good to me in terms of his overall ability just to see the game. I think he could be a better player than even a Zach Miller. Like speed isn't everything, especially at tight end. Like, yeah, you know, he'll have a hard time separating deep, but like, man, that guy is so good at football. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? The way things are going, tight end is so important, you know? Yeah, see, Kuntz is very Seahawky, and if he's there at 100 to 120, go ahead. You know what I mean? There's other tight ends too. There's a guy from Clemson, Davis Allen. He looks kind of legit too. He's super late. That's like a UFDA look. But yeah, we could look at a lot of different tight ends. I think we're gonna take a tight end, you know. But there's in that window, Kincaid. Who's the other random kid, man? I never mock him. Ray Croft? Yeah. Kraft? I'm sorry. I don't check his film. I haven't watched enough of them for a guy that I saw a little bit of that. But yeah, tight ends. You know, we talk. You know what's awesome about this draft is we're talking about every position. And why are we talking about every position? Because we can literally draft somebody at every position. It's like in most years we got like 3 or 4 picks, maybe 6, and we're just like, okay, we're gonna go with this because that's all we can really afford to do. But in this draft, it's like we can talk about value at every position because they did such a good job of setting themselves up in a recovery. You know, trading Wilson away, and this is just crazy stuff that we're even talking about this. Man, it's insane. Yeah, but I'm so pumped, guys. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, Stroud going 1-2 after that test, maybe that changes it a little bit, but I can't see them Richardson going in that 1-2. I do think Young is definitely in the first 2. I would think Stroud goes there too. You know, do the Cardinals want to take Will Anderson now? If I was the Cardinals, I probably would. You know, if I'm the Cardinals, that's what I probably do. I got a new GM. You know, if I can trade out and build value, I guess. I'm not saying Will Anderson is the next coming of Bosa or anything like that, but like, why not at least not get embarrassed next year and have some ability to get some push, you know, and get a character guy that brings up your locker room and at least gets your team 500. You know what I mean? Yeah, Miles Murphy, if he falls to 20, is very interesting. Hold that thought. I'll be right back. But I don't think he will. I think Miles Murphy was getting mocked too high earlier, but now it's kind of creeping back up the boards as people see the value in maybe not having to be like the purest edge rusher, but just now being able, you know, it kind of works for Seattle in some ways, and, you know, and then there's the rumors of like, are we going back to our 3-4 and like, are we back to the old, Carroll type of defense. It all depends on what their plans are in terms of how they want to scheme. But like, just get good players. Just overall, just get good players. I don't care really where. Just get more good players because we were already. It's a miracle, guys. Last year was a miracle. The team worked hard. I get it. But for the rookies that we had to play at that level in the speed of the NFL today, with Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, yes, Ken Walker, even Tariq Young in moments, Boye Mafe coming on late, what they were able to do was fantastic. Those guys are only going to be stronger, healthier, have more innate ability to watch or be watching more film. That class, like for them to have that much experience, playing experience, playoff experience already, let that sink into your head about how phenomenal that is. And the Geno Smith story has overshadowed that, and maybe that's justified. But those kids, Tariq Woolen was probably, maybe undisputedly to me, the best cornerback in the NFL last season, maybe outside of Surtain, maybe. But in head-to-head games, we beat the Broncos, Surtain's team. We beat the Jets, Sauce's team. I'm just saying. Look, I'm just saying, guys. I can't call it, but if we can even get 5 more players that can play at an above average, good to great NFL level, we can add a win or two to our record. Maybe more. I don't know. The NFL's a long season, lots of injuries. Can happen, knock on wood. But Charles Cross isn't going to get weaker. He's going to be able to defend even better or protect the edge even better. And it's just monumental to me. So to your point of seeing these guys like Murphy, Mazi Smith, DeJuan Jones, Jack Campbell, then the best center guard combo left on the board. Obviously, you've mocked this a few times. That's why you're all for trading down from 5 into the mid-first and gaining that second. And I respect that, and I can see that working out well. I can. But I also just kind of feel like Reflect the Sun. I just kind of get the feeling that we're going to pick somebody. That we're going to just use this opportunity to pick somebody. Take somebody that we feel can win us 2 games right now alone as a player. That's my thing. Building that 23 super team. Yeah, they did trade down a lot, but they tried to repeat that philosophy for the next few seasons, and then we haven't been back to an NFC game since. So maybe it worked back then. I don't know if it'll work now. 2010 was great. 11 was great. Yeah, so true. Maybe, man. I don't know. Could be. It's going to be fun to watch. Exactly. We just don't really know what Snyder's going to do. But when I watched that presser, Pete and John's presser there, they looked like they definitely had an ace up the sleeve, right? Like they knew what was, like they have lots of good plans. Ah, man, they must have learned so much from the last draft. Yeah, just intense. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the Seahawks Times, please like and subscribe to my channel. I've had my channel open for some while now. I know I've been sloughing on making videos, busy family guy. Make sure to like and subscribe, though, and share the content. Look, it's been actually crazy trying to get it in here, but I'm going to ramp it up as much as I can. And I want this channel to get over 2,000 subs, just kind of as a milestone. So if you're my homies here, go and tell some friends about the Seahawks Times. I want to shout out all the other channels out there that cover the Seattle Seahawks, whether they're Seahawks related or not. We learned so much together, and it's not a competition, in my opinion. It's about sharing all of our knowledge, our wisdom. And just because you don't have a Seahawks channel, don't think that I don't read your comments and take value in them and learn about the team through them. That's what it's all about. Yeah, they were acting Reflect the Sun like they were pumped, like 2012, like things were falling and working out, and they saw some generational talent that other people didn't, and that's where we kind of splashed in and got the Wagner and Wilson kind of draft going there. So, yeah, like it's gonna be crazy. Anyways, guys, much love and respect. Thanks for chatting about it with me. We didn't get too deep about prospects, but it was a good time here. Thanks for chiming in, and thanks for hanging in me with I'm sick here. Like and subscribe. Make sure to check out for my content. Hit that notification bell. It's Wes here with the Seahawks Times. And you know what? Every single time it's Go Hawks, baby. Much love and peace out.